Good evening, and welcome to the Cobb County Republican Women's Club first televised forum of 2014. I'm Barbara Hickey, CCRWC President, and this is the first in a series of 5 forums. Tonight's forums will be for the candidates for governor and United States Representative for the 11th Congressional District. Would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The Cobb County Republican Women's Club was organized 50 years ago and is the largest Republican women's organization in Georgia. We are a member of the Georgia Federation of Republican Women and the National Federation of Republican Women. CCRWC provides an excellent opportunity to network with elected officials and feel more connected to the political education on issues and candidates. It also provides a vehicle to get involved in candidate campaigns through volunteering. Through CCRWC, you become an informed voter, having input into the political process and influencing decisions that open the door to good government. We invite you to become a member and join us for lunch. We meet the 4th Friday of the month at the Hilton Marietta Conference Center. Women and men are welcome to join our organization. For more information about us, visit the Cobb County Republican Women's Club website at www.ccrwc.org. I would like also to speak to you this evening on the importance of voting. The right to vote is a privilege, but first you must be registered. April 21st is the last day to register and be eligible to vote in the general primary on May 20th and in the runoff on July 22nd. If you have any questions about your registration, voting absentee or early voting, call the Cobb County Elections and Registration Office at 770-528-2581 or visit the website at www.cobbelections.org. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my pleasure to introduce our moderator for this evening's forum. Wynn McGurty has lived in Cobb County for most of her life. She ran a dance studio for many years and has been working in real estate since 2000. Wynn has served on the board of CCRWC for the past several years and presently is chair of our very important committee, Caring for America. She has been active in politics since her brother, Stan Wise, became a commissioner in 1982. She is currently serving on the Cobb Parks and Recreation Board and the Mountain View Arts Alliance. Please welcome our moderator, Wynn McGurty.
Thank you very much. Just want to remind you this is our first televised Republican Forum in a series of 5 sponsored by the Cobb County Republican Women's Club. Tonight's forum will be for candidates for governor and the United States Representative for the 11th Congressional District. Thank you to the TV23 staff and their assistance in broadcasting this forum. And also we thank the candidates, our live audience, and our viewing audience. Since this is a live broadcast, I would like to remind everyone to please turn off their phones and any other noisemakers you may have to lessen the distraction. Also, please refrain from applause until the end of our forum. Our format this evening will be each candidate will have 1 minute for an opening statement. They will field questions and the candidates will be given 1 minute to respond. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes for a closing statement. Candidates, there are timekeepers. There is one sitting in front of you and one to my left. You will be given a 30-second warning card and then a bell will ring to end. You must stop speaking when the bell rings. The Cobb County Republican Women's Club has contacted all candidates for governor and the United States Representative for the 11th Congressional District. If your candidate is not here this evening, it is because they were unable to attend. Our two panelists for the governor's race are Roseanne Hall. Roseanne is a resident of Cobb County since 1968 and has been active in civic and volunteer organizations in the community. She is currently president-elect of the Cobb County Women's Club and has been a realtor since 1991 and is a past president of the Cobb Association of Realtors. She and her husband, Jim Hall, have 6 children and 14 grandchildren. J.D. Van Brink is also a panelist. J.D. is the co-founder of the Georgia Tea Party and has served as chairman since August of 2009. He earned a Bachelor of Science degree in Management Information Systems and an MBA from Tennessee Technological University in 1983 and 84, respectively. JD has developed software for over 31 years and since 1992 has owned and operated Van Brink Systems Incorporated, an IT consulting corporation. He and his wife, Mary, live in Ackworth, Georgia. Our first panel is candidates for Georgia. Our candidates are John Barge, present state school superintendent, and David Pennington, former mayor of Dalton. Mr. Barge, we'll begin with your opening statement.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here. I am a Cobb County native, 1984 graduate of Campbell High School. It's a pleasure to be back. While there are numerous issues in this race for governor, including education, economic development, jobs, poverty, water, and let's not forget corruption. I believe they can all be brought under the umbrella of leadership. The governor is absolutely showing no leadership. As we've seen over and over again as late as this week, corruption is second nature. True leadership strives to make life better for those around them under its influence, and proper leadership is self-serving and self-promoting. True leaders motivate others. They don't mislead or exploit people to their own benefit. President Eisenhower, arguably one of the most well-liked presidents in history, said that the supreme quality of leadership is integrity. The Center for Public Integrity ranks Georgia dead last in the nation in public integrity. Dead last. That is this governor's lasting legacy. I think it's time that the people of Georgia have leaders running for their state offices that they respect.
Mr. Pennington?
Thank you. I'm running for governor because I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission to restore Georgia back to our proper place, which was the most powerful, successful economy in the South. And we'll do that by adhering to limited government principles of less spending, less taxes, less regulations, and open and transparent government. Limited government does not mean limited possibilities. It means unlimited opportunities for entrepreneurs to start and build their jobs in Georgia, build their companies in Georgia. It means freeing our teachers to do what they were trained to do, educating our children. That is why, first of all, we need to cut the Georgia income tax immediately from 6% to 4% because we have the highest state income tax of all the surrounding states. We need to pull out a Common Core and decentralize education back to local governments, local school systems, and local school teachers. If we'll concentrate on our possibilities in Georgia and not our limitations, I'll assure you, Georgia's better days are ahead.
And now we'll begin our questioning. You'll have 1 minute for your response. You'll be notified as to when you have 30 seconds left, and when the bell rings, you must stop speaking. The first question is from Roseanne Hall for Mr. Pennington.
As taxes continue to rise, would you be in favor of removing the state income tax? And what should be put in its place to reduce the burden on the taxpayer?
Well, the first thing that has to be done, or needs to be done, is to cut the Georgia income tax from 6% to 4% immediately, and not by switching it to a sales tax. We need to cut state government without a doubt. As mayor of Dalton, during very difficult times, we cut property taxes 6 straight years by a total of over 30%. We haven't had a countywide splost in 6 years, and still we're able to reinvest millions of dollars in needed infrastructure because limited government works. And that's why we need business people in charge of governments, not professional politicians.
And Mr. Barge?
As far as understanding the format, respond to the question.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Well, the first thing we need to do is examine our tax structure. Totally in favor of reducing taxes. One thing that we need to keep in mind is that over 40% of our state revenues come right now from income tax. So while I support lowering the income tax, we certainly need to find other ways to balance our budget. Reducing state government sounds good. We have to understand at this point that there are over 6,000 fewer employees in state government than there were in 1999. State government has been reduced by 15% in the last couple of years. In many cases, we can streamline state government by eliminating duplicative state agencies that duplicate the work of others. We can do that. But one of the first things I will do is convene a committee that will look at those taxes and that tax structure. Everything's on the table.
Thank you. And the second question will be from J.D. Van Dyke for Mr. Barge.
How can the Port of Savannah project be expedited, and what role can you play?
Well, the Port of Savannah can be expedited. Unfortunately, it's fallen victim to politics at the federal level, I think. But it can be expedited on the state level by us moving forward, finding sources of revenue that we can invest. For example, Senate Bill 210 that was passed this legislative session has a potential price tag of $800 million to $1 billion. It is unproven research in this particular state. If we can find $800 million to $1 billion to fund an unproven practice in this state, then we can certainly find sources of revenue to deepen the Savannah Harbor. We've got to prioritize.
Mr. Pennington?
The Port of Savannah obviously is an extremely important issue for Georgia, but also we need to understand that 3 of these men running for senator were Republicans in Congress when the White House was a Republican and both houses of Congress were Republican. The governor himself was a Republican in Congress at that time. And why it wasn't done 10 years ago, I have no idea. Business people, once again, have a sense of urgency. They obviously did not, and they waited too long. But it also can't be our only avenue as far as getting the Georgia economy going again. That seems like the only thing that we're talking about, and there's many other things that can stimulate the Georgia economy and get us growing again.
And the third question will be from Roseanne Hall for Mr. Pennington.
Given that public education is the single largest expenditure in the Georgia budget, do you think that the spending level and/or priorities are adequate? And what would you change?
As I said in my opening statements, it's time to decentralize the power and control of local education back to the local communities, local school boards, and local school teachers. As we began to centralize this process in the 1970s, first in the state houses and then in Washington, D.C., we began to explode the cost of education, and I also did not have the results that we were promised during that time. I believe local communities will spend the dollars much better than what state government mandates have done. And if you look at a lot of the increase in costs, they're coming from these mandates down on local systems that are not going into the classroom themselves.
To answer the question, I do not think the funding level is adequate. When you look at our funding formula for education in Georgia, it was developed in 1985. It has never been adjusted for inflation, so we're still funding at the same levels as we did in 1985. Over the last several years, since 2001, the state has withheld $7.6 billion from public educational systems across the state of Georgia. As I travel the state and I visit schools, I'm in schools where literally they have the lights turned off because they can't afford their power bills. School districts are using textbooks that are over 20 years old that are duct taped together because the revenues that the state is sending down to the local district have been cut to the bone. Class sizes are larger. 2/3 of our school districts in the state are not in school. They're required 180 days by law because they can't afford to keep their doors open. Teachers have been furloughed. Over 8,000 teachers have been laid off in the last 10 years.
The fourth question is from J.D. Van Brink for Mr. Barge.
What can Georgia do about unfunded mandates from the federal government?
Resist them. In education we deal with a lot of unfunded mandates. One of the things that I've done as state school superintendent is travel to Washington and talk with those involved. Many times they have a way that they think things should be done and try to force our hand on the way that those should be done. And we need to do everything we can to resist them. Things like the Affordable Care Act, we need to continue to resist that. But we also need to understand that we have the poor and needy in this state that we need to provide for. And I think that we can recognize that there are better ways to do it than sometimes the federal government is mandating us to do and are not funding us to do it.
Mr. Pennington?
I think the first thing the state needs to do is set an example about them sending unfunded mandates down to local governments. Because, you know, that's the biggest issue I've seen as mayor of Dalton, is the unfunded mandates coming from state government to local governments. But once again, you know, the states need to stand up. We were created 250 years ago with sovereign rights. We sold a lot of those rights out to the federal government for, you know, a few $1 million many times over the last few years. But, you know, the prime thing we need to do right now is set a better example by not sending unfunded mandates down to our local governments.
And the fifth question is from Roseanne Hall for Mr. Pennington.
Due to the large number of crimes being committed by repeat offenders, what would you do to reduce the number of persons incarcerated without jeopardizing public safety?
Well, obviously it comes back to Georgia has now become one of the poorest states in America. And we also are in a state where a lot of these kids now come from single-family households. And we've got to get the Georgia economy going better again to get better jobs for our citizens in Georgia. But also we need to understand a lot of these men and women are not victims. You know, they committed crimes to begin with. And, you know, we experienced where we started closing our mental institutions because we couldn't afford them. And what they did was just send them right back to local government and city streets and ended up in our jails. So we got to be very careful as far as how we decide to empty out our prisons. In many cases, those people deserve to be in prison to begin with. They weren't victims. They, you know, there were victims that they caused a lot of the victims in our local communities. So, you know, I think it's important for people to understand that a lot of these issues, that's why we have prisons.
Mr. Barge?
Thank you. You know, the research is pretty clear about the number of people in our prison system who do not have high school diplomas. Education is one of the biggest things that we can do to help decrease prison population, is make sure that all of our students are graduating from high school with a meaningful and relevant diploma. And by relevant, I mean making sure that students are graduating high school with a set of skills and knowledge to be successful in today's world, whether it's going on post-secondary or to the world of work. But approximately 80% of those students in prison do not have a high school diploma. So education is an answer to poverty. Education breaks cycles of poverty. Education, quality education will reduce the crime and reduce prison population.
Mr. Van Brink, I don't want to put you on the spot here, but do you have another question that you could ask?
Wouldn't be the first time. I can handle it. Do you support changing Georgia law to allow counties to charge a fraction of a percent on their sales tax rates so that they can tailor their tax rates to their spending needs?
Mr. Barge?
I would support that. I think that that is the epitome of local control and giving our local communities the ability to do the things they need to do. So yes.
I
Mr.
would support it
Pennington?
also. Gives them more flexibility.
Thank you.
The candidates will now have their 2-minute closing statements. Mr. Pennington?
Georgia has the 3rd highest teenage unemployment rate in America. We have the 4th highest long-term unemployment rate in America. We have the 5th highest poverty rate in America. That's our present. That doesn't have to be our future. Our future could be, with the right policies as far as getting our economy going again, could be much brighter than what our past has been. We need to understand we're not competitive as a state. We have one of the highest income taxes in America, the 9th highest in America. We also have an extremely mediocre sales tax level. It's not the highest, but it certainly isn't the lowest either. And we've got to get Georgia's spending under control in order to be able to cut the taxes to get Georgia growing again. We're blessed with tremendous economic assets in Georgia. Probably the best ports in America, the best airport in the world, the best interstate system in the South, the best railroad network in the South, great universities and competitive utilities. Georgia has the assets to really once again rocket forward. But we've got to have the right economic tax and regulatory policies to be able to do this. And once again, if we'll concentrate on our possibilities and not our limitations, Georgia will once again be the marvel of the South.
Please give these Republican candidates for governor a round of applause. Yeah, we are running on time. I think I just blew that. Mr. Barge.
That's quite all right. You know, in the last several years, more Georgians are now living on the desperate side of poverty than at any time in our state's recent history. Nearly 160,000 more people lived in poverty in 2012 than in 2010. 123,000 Georgians, aged 16 to 64, live in poverty but work full-time. The percentage of our residents who are working full-time poor has increased 20% since 2010. We rank 6th worst in the nation in child poverty. Georgia's national ranking in per capita income has fallen every year the last 4 years. We now rank 40th in the nation in per capita income. For me, this election is about leadership. I'm the 5th son of hardworking parents here in Cobb County. My dad was a severe alcoholic, died when I was 18 years old. I started working at 9 to help pay my own way. I've worked for everything that I have. I chose a life of service as an educator because I wanted to relate to other young people that with an education, with strong ethics, with service to others, things can be different. You can make the world a better place. I think it's time that Georgia had a true leader, one who hears and listens to the voice of Georgians. As your governor, I will work hard and every day to make you proud, to make Georgia a better place for all of us. I appreciate your vote on May 20th. Thank you.
Now, can we give these candidates a round of applause? We will take a short break and be back with our candidates for the representatives of District 11.